Amazing to see you. Two of you, there's one like. That's how it always starts. Give us some shares, get us up and running. Yes, it is a Friday, end of the week Friday. So here's what I'm going to deal with today. Something I failed to deal with yesterday. So first of all, if you haven't watched our live stream YouTube from yesterday, I suggest jumping on and grabbing that one as well. You can catch this as a recording if you like. It was great to meet so many awesome people, all understanding the great game, nobody feeling gaslit in any way. Everyone can talk freely, discuss their plans, how they're going to make it happen, all of those awesome things. I would love it if you shared the hell out of that video. It's already blown off the hook normal daily views by some scale. Share it out to all your friends. This is a wake up Q&A done live with people like you, physically present, community members and YouTube followers. Some of them come far and wide. We had guys from Miami, had Amsterdam, we had all local UK. So where am I? The control structure, the original control structure was the church. People noticed that tithing in a belief system was easier than getting tax paid with tax extractors that used to get butchered when they went to the far out lands demanding money for the king. People used to just kill him. I love those days. I love those days. A little bit of feedback. But when they were afraid of what would happen to them in the afterlife, and they had a belief system around religion, they stumped up willingly 10% of the income. So there's 55 of you and 16 likes. Please give this a smash up. So here's what I did that was wrong yesterday. We always, I review and watch what I do. And I also have a team of people that are giving me feedback on my performances. And there was something I did that wasn't right yesterday that I missed. One of the questions was, should I buy property? And should I buy property with a mortgage or outright? And because I go macro, everything comes from the macro top down. For me, understanding and answering any one question is simple as this. If you're going to war, which continent are you going to war in? If it's the Antarctica, I want lots of warm gear and I want it all white, and I want a sniper rifle, and because there's going to be big open tundras, there's going to be wide long distance shooting. If you're dropping me into the middle of the Congo, the last thing I want is a bright white super warm suit with a sniper rifle. Then I want bush warfare, then I want camos, then I want everything. So the question always comes with, what are the circumstances? Thanks, great to see the comments. I'm seeing them. Well done on the stream, says somebody. Awesome, I'm glad you got value. Share the hell out of it. We see your comments. I'm seeing them popping up on the side. Keep commenting. We love that. We love the interaction and we thank you for it. Thank you also for the great questions that came in. And I am here as a sort of part two epilogue to answer a question I never really properly answered. Because of the nature, I went on a big old sidebar, and the guy said, you never properly answered that question. And we always try to do what we say we do, and we never want any one person to go away disrespected or feeling unfulfilled. So this is to fill that gap. Thank you, says someone. Hi everyone, says others. Awesome, great to see another stream. Yes, thank you for your following up and giving it a share and a like. We appreciate it. Hit that button up top there. The shares are doubly valuable. It pushes us to the top of the criminal's algorithm and gets us going. Look at this cathedral, cathedral town it is. In fact, I'm in a wall, by the way, a little walled area that monks used to come and sit. You might see the wall there. It's super quiet here. You just hear the birds and the bees. So a lot of the city noise is it's taken. St. Albans was a much smaller town many years ago, but monks would come when they did Lent and retreat and they weren't eating or they were fasting, and this was where they would sit in this walled garden where it would be peaceful and quiet, just the birds and the bees. Great content, says gentleman. It looks like these are from here. Love you, man. You're awesome. Thank you. Thank you for appreciating what we do, and thank you for sharing and liking. Okay, so the question, to repeat the question so that everybody understands the question I never fully answered and that I'm aiming to repair, because we always look to do exactly what we say we do, and if we miss something, we want to fix it, and that's okay. So the intent and integrity must be there. So the question was, should I be buying property? He didn't actually ask that. He asked, but I've expanded the question because there's more to this than meets the eye. Should I buy a property outright or should I use debt?
So assuming you have the means, or maybe you would have bought a bigger property if you were using debt, or a nicer one, and you'd buy a smaller one if you're using outright. The circumstances may vary. We were in the UK. The gentleman was in the house, I'm assuming. So I'll answer as if it's a British question, but I don't think that changes anything for our American audience, our Australian audience, our New Zealand audience, our South African audience, anything else. Do you use debt and should for buying right now? And the key variables are debt, the price of debt, property, the price of property, the potential direction of prices in property in terms of timing, the potential direction of debt in terms of timing. So it's specific to these events that we are discussing here today. It's not like if you're in 2000, let me tell you, if you bought property here in this city, for example, in 2000, you're sitting on massive capital gains. The difference is what happens past is not a guarantee of what happens for the future. And the circumstances have changed. Look at that big grey cumulus cloud. Good old British summer. You never know quite what you're going to get. Releasing equity from property to buy physical gold, says somebody. I'll touch on that. And I think it comes out in answering this question properly. So, in answering the question properly, because the team said you never answered it properly, here's all the variables. I start at my macro top down. Where are we going on all things? That's debt markets, asset valuations, which property is a subsector of, generally. Also, where are we positioned? Buying a property in Russia, which could be dirt cheap, gets you lots of land, and you could be in the south somewhere where it's a bit warmer, or in Crimea, is a different circumstance to buying at a very pricey St. Albans, where I'm standing right now, with the direction that the pound, the British economy is going in. So there's also a currency effect to your asset. Your asset might hold its value, but you might be in Japan and your currency is falling through the floor. Well, buying a Japanese property, it may flatline. You've got a lot of old people that eventually will die, and that'll bring a lot of new property onto the market, and a very smaller demographic below you. So you can see the complexity in actually answering this question. The answering the question requires more information. Where are you? What's the nature of that country and its currency? Because actually flatlining on property through a difficult recession, but your currency dropping 30% means you've lost money. You should all be global macro, like a global macro hedge fund of mindset, because different countries are going to experience different events. Tiny sidebar on this question. Argentina and Iran have now requested the Bric nations to join the development of what's going on in the Bric currencies. This is an ominous development long term for the dollar, for example. This is an ominous development for the dollar. And let me tell you, my American friends, after we have a dollar spike, which we think will come nonetheless, because the dollar will attack this initiative and it will short-term win, but long-term it dies. And when I talk about my American friends, some of our best clients are American, but when I characterize American government, it doesn't reflect on the citizens. They are not the dark state and the agenda that has been run there. So I'm going to say some negative things about how they portrayed. It is never a visitation on other people. So America is like this big steroided up bodybuilder with fraught insides who's got a limited lifespan and his time is up, but he's still a big guy, a little bit yellow about the gills, not as fresh as he once was, and he's been locked up for a day in the cells with other inmates, which are the likes of Argentina, Iran, South Africa, Russia, and he's beaten up and bullied and pushed around a lot of those inmates throughout the day. And now he's toxic, he's old, he's steroided up, he's a t-shirt bodybuilder, he's got big ass muscles, he's got the ability to intimidate and push people around. Truth be told, long term in a cardio brawl where someone holds up for a while, he's actually going to lose if he doesn't win early. So he's that aging slugger with the power, but no longer the stamina, and deep down, not necessarily as much life. Again, this is not a characterization on my American friends who know me well. If you hear, you understand. So in the short term, he's the bully and he wins out. But now it's coming nightfall and he's got to sleep. And he slapped everybody in the room or try to push him around. and not anybody really likes him that much. And now it's bedtime, and they're all got to overnight in that prison cell. And there's nobody to watch his back while he sleeps. And you know what? That's a dangerous situation. And what you're starting to see is the dusk is falling, and the Argentinian down in Latin America is shimmying over to the Russian, the Brazilian, the Indian, the Chinaman, and the South African, if I haven't already said them, and sitting with them and saying, "Hey guys, how are you doing? Okay, can I buy a smoke? How's it? Quick with a joke and a light up your smoke, buddying up." And the Iranian, now I wonder why Iran would want to be with BRICS rather than America. Well, you only have to look at the Zaire relationship with Israel, the continual attempts and threats not allowing them to develop nuclear energy, various other reasons. So as these initially small, rather not particularly significant people start clustering up with the rest of the world, America stands rather alone, holding on to a shrinking Western ally base, which includes Europe for now, but for which there are also a few jaded hands about American hegemony. You take a country like Serbia, for example. They've chosen to remain fairly Russian friendly or not overtly provocative. There are a couple amongst them. So people are hedging their bets. Some are moving away from the backstop that they thought they had in the American guy. So it varies greatly what country you are that you're buying. It also varies by your age, life, time span, family. Those are also factors that are worth considering, and they do come into the equation, but they're not driver factors. So overall, macro in the world, particularly the Western world, which is the bulk of my viewers, Western world. If you're not, I'm glad to have you, by the way. Share your stuff. My Indian friends, my Asian friends, my African friends, please, let's get that community up going as well. Hit the like button. There's 160 viewing and 71 likes. But if you are somewhere in Western Europe, somewhere in North America, Canada, USA, maybe New Zealand, Australia, I'm here to say that overall, fiscally, things are going to get worse. So here's what's going to go down in my assessment on my primary bias scenario cost, which is subject to change as things change, but so far has continued to have us on the right side of the market. Kind of blustery here. I'm going to get rained on just now, so I better hurry up. So what does that mean? Well, it means, should you be buying a property at all? Because one of the ways and one of the directions to take everyone into the great Bolshevism as we speak is they want to have all the assets, kind of like the Vatican, all the assets. Churches were exceedingly rich, by the way. You could pay the Protestant formation of churches all formed because in the Catholic churches, you could pay alms for sins. You did something wrong, the church would say, I see you did that. And they encourage confessions. And you have these sins. One of the ways you can come clean with God would be to make a donation to the church, an extraction service for your sins. You see, belief systems are very handy things when you hold that power over working class and middle class people. You can say, I believe that was a sin. You can find recompense. It's almost like a fine system for swearing in the pub, only much more devastating and far more powerful and accumulated great wealth. There's the St. Albans flag, by the way, blue and yellow. That should actually be the flag of England in many people's opinions. So the whole concept is, should you be asking this question at all in terms of if you're buying in a Western nation? Should you even be thinking about doing it at all? The macro question, when I come from top down, I ask if it's the right question. I mean, it's a bit like we're on the Titanic and you say, should I lie on the lounger or should I go play poker in the casino room? Well, I'm saying neither. Fucking get a lifeboat. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes the question almost warrants like you need to really ask that it's maybe not the right question. I'm not saying it's the wrong question. In fact, I'm in the process of purchasing a property, but it's not in a Western nation. And it comes with all sorts of tax advantages and 30-year guarantee of no property taxes, various other things that make my set of circumstances, my age group, my ability to also pay cash, but to maybe want a mortgage for leverage, fix the rate, and always have the money if the bank calls for it in 7 days. So then there's the financing aspect. There are many ways you can finance. You will potentially be in a situation where you could put on a mortgage, you buy for a certain amount, and you ensure you always have the money for paying off the mortgage if they give you 6 days notice, like a force majeure clause. Pay, otherwise, unfortunately, we have to seize this. There's been bank ructions, you know, the whole world has changed. Our balance sheet requires this. They have that in their T's and C's, a kind of God clause, an active God clause. You've got to watch terms and conditions. And let me just tell you, counterparty risk has never been higher. And even if you have that money, the case becomes, well, where do you have it? If you have it in another bank and they've gone force majeure and bailed you in, the other bank's not going to take the shitcoin, cheap-ass bankrupt bank shares as collateral for what you owe on the home. So they will put you in a situation where you potentially might not even be able to pay it if you have a lending. So the safest thing to do, if you're still insistent on buying in the Western world during a period like this, where prices are still very, very high here, but there is a sign of the yield curve turning, which has happened a little bit down today, the 10-year treasuries, and for a bit we're in a pullback phase. But overall, interest rates are now rising. So the trend is going, the cost will be working against you. Even if you fix for 30 years, let's say you take a 30-year mortgage or a 25-year mortgage and you're determined to buy, what will then happen is you've got to understand that might give you some protection, but again, the counterparty risk is so high. Nothing that is written on paper is believable anymore. It can all have a wiggle clause in it, a justification, a validation where they can shimmy their way out of that commitment. So whilst I would certainly say fixed, and you will pay more for a fixed, significantly more, after a period they may seek to change their terms and say, you know, unnatural levels of volatility in the markets, yes, no longer to offer this product, you have one of the 3 options to choose. So overall, never has contractual commitments ever been so shaky, because they are built on sand and the sinking sand is about to start sinking. Wind interference, the guy's saying. Let me just cover that. I do have a dead cat, by the way, and it is pretty high up. I'll pull it a little closer. The wind has got a little bit higher. I'll move towards the trees. Thanks for the feedback. So what do you then do? What do you then do? Well, again, I come back to the question, should you be buying in the West? They are retreating from the many perks that you used to have as a buy-to-let investor here in the UK. They don't want you as landlords. And long term, I don't think they want you as homeowners. So what are they going to do? They're going to make it very expensive. I think the costs of owning property in the West are going to face communistic kind of squeeze. I think one of the easiest ways to get everybody out of property would actually be a major interest rate spike. We're about to go pre-storm into rain here, so I'm trying to find some wind-free zones. So if you are preparing with the knowledge that you may actually get an interest rate spike and counterparty risk has never been more dangerous, why not rent? Why not rent and postpone any purchasing decisions until the time that everything has clarified? We are about to go through a baptism of some sort, a baptism of fire of some sort. None of us know what shape the lie of the land will take. Never buy at an all-time high. We are at all-time highs. You want to be the guy with cash that survived real skullduggery attempts during that time. Ideally renting, and I'm going to throw this as an option. And remember, this is not financial advice. None of what I said yesterday or today is financial advice. I'm an unofficial, non-advisory IFA. Which is a contradiction, of course, because the IFA is an independent financial advisor. But I'm taking it more as in your contrarian view in terms of what I feel and think. That doesn't mean it projects perfectly onto you. I'm in a different life stage cycle than some people. Many are younger, a few are older, etc., etc. So you've got to bear all of this in mind. But making sure your capital survives the change of railway track from the old railway line to the hypersonic, elongated muskiness, supersonic, the magnet rail, monorail system that they're going to design, the surveillance finance, all of the aspects that go with the great monetary reset. How how do you do that? Have it physical and hold it on you. Make them send a man with a gun to get it, and be mobile like I am, and have many things in many places. Now you can't all just be there. I've been preparing for this for decades, but you can start. You can, at least instead of having one place, you can have two. At least in having just your personal property, you can have some silver and gold. You can have some silver and gold in another entity, which they can't just be raided. You can do a lot of things, and that's where Support at the Market Sniper is your friend, because we can tell you what various people all have been doing for all of us in terms of this challenge. So here we are. You're facing a challenge. First of all, should you be buying? Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you could rent. This is all over, in my opinion, in under 2.5 years. Or the clarity of the direction they'll be dragging you, and the confirmation of our great suspicions, many of which have come directly out of the World Economic Forum's mouth, directly out of who ate all the pies, Carsten's the big fat collaborator with the cartel that wants absolute control over you from his BIS headquarters in Switzerland. Many of these people absolutely have said most of what we've said. We're just saying, hey, you know what? This is important what they said, and this is the repercussion for you. So my overall answer is, in the West, try avoid buying property. The world is going to change so much that your current home may not be your long-term home, and you don't know how much it's changed. You're about to do a pivot. It's kind of like you've been in a long-term bull market in all asset classes, and we're currently making the right shoulder on a head and shoulders after a choppy period, and the world is about to invert. The places that were great to live are now going to be terrible to live. The trend, even though the living standard may be higher now, the trend is down, while in other places where it was deemed, oh, I'd hate to have to be a citizen there, could in fact become a lot better. So how do you deal with that? Well, what do? Well, you postpone a decision until you have further information, or you see what I see. You set up structures and you make sure your money survives. The biggest challenge today is making sure your money survives. You don't, if you're already surviving right now and you're a tenant somewhere, you don't have to purchase now. And anything you don't have to do involving money at this time is a very good time. This is very much the time for living within your means and not making long-term commitments when a major segue is about to happen. A major pivot is about to happen globally in terms of what's going on in the world. Thank you for the 118 likes. That's really high, and we appreciate it. And if you hit us a share, that's also awesome. All will be well. Buy the dip, says somebody. Yeah. So as I've said many times, buy the dip is a meme, not an investment strategy. And this isn't a normal dip. This is an end of cycle system that only happens every 3 generations. You know, Bretton Woods wasn't even the scale of what's coming, because citizens were still free and there were real democracies then. We're going to pivot into a technological world. You are under attack with a biological experiment. This is another level of war on people. This truly is. And I want to warn you, keep your cards close to your chest. Don't do too much that involves contractual commitments in a time where most contracts, they will force majeure on you for things that protect you, but they will hold you to everything that's in the contract. So you get all the downside of your commitment to them. They will own you, bankrupt you, cede your earnings in future. The debt will not be forgiven necessarily, but they themselves can say, we can no longer stand on that clause. That's how they write their terms and conditions. That's why bailouts have been added to every single bank. So, should you be buying property? Should you be buying property in the West? My opinion is no. If you have the means, now's the time to live more in terms of your means than you've ever had before. Living within your means is the great new smart. So if you were to have a property and you really need to make a purchase and you're still in Western nations, you're happy to buy the top of the market and recognize you could face a 30%, maybe even a 50% plus capital asset division. It's your personal home. You're going absolutely batty. The rental market is crazy. It's too expensive. You can't find what you want, but you can buy what you want. Then do it cash, in my opinion. I will use debt because I have unique benefits in a uniquely set up country, and I will have collateral to pay it off within 7 days notice, and I will have that collateral in physical things that I can hold, and in other things, USD, I will have that collateral 3 times over in many different various forms, for which some or part thereof is bound to survive, including physically on me, assets that hold value, etc., everything, and vaulting and various other things. So I'm not overcommitting at all. I will use the leverage so that I can keep those assets throughout the reset. And if they write off all debts, then it'll get written off along with everybody else. But I don't think you're going to get any gifts like that. You're going to get the downside without the upside, as we all get volunteered into the system. So in the Western areas, general Western deals, I don't think this is a buying time, full stop. I think the course of action is rent, plan for what I've been warning of, and look at capital preservation, full stop. If you absolutely need to buy well within your means, and ensure and expect, if you use any debt, which I discourage, say rather not buy cash. But if you end up using debt because you need to get a little bit more and you don't have it, fix the interest rates, but don't treat it as golden. You might get an extra month or two, maybe 6 months or a year, but then things go tits up, and they renege. Can treat it as a gift that will just give you extra time to hustle up and be able to pay it all off. So all of those are in retreating steps. The first answer is don't buy in the West. If you have to, buy cash. If you have to use a mortgage, absolutely have to, fix the interest rate. I see an interest rate spike that is going to potentially cause great concern. And then if you can't get it fixed and you take a variable, accept all the risks that we have said, preferably revert back to the top and rent. Okay, we've answered that question. Give us a like and a share on that. Watch the developments on the Brics out there. I am off to go visit another community member, conclude a few things, maybe a bit of Wimbledon time. I'm not really a tennis buff, but it's still a great social event. Thank you so much for checking in. Thank you for your questions. What about using a mortgage to buy farmland? That's a productive asset. Farmland is interesting. It's a productive asset. They also don't want you to own things, especially useful things like farmland. So again, they might find a way to shake you out. Remember, pump and dump schemes shake you out at the bottom, pick it up on the cheap. You are the bag holder for the down move in price. So debt in any form is you're not buying that land yourself. You're in partnership with a bank who doesn't like you. That's the key thing. I don't want to be in partnership with a bank who doesn't like me, who's going to overvalue something and then let it get sold at the bottom, take all my equity and sell it to BlackRock at the lower price later. I don't want to be a bag holder for a major asset descent. So even if you change the usability, unless you know farming and you're going to get such an unbelievable yield that even if the rates tripled, you would still be able to pay the mortgage, don't do it. The problem is the bank. They are not your friends. Okay, guys, I've got to go. Love you. Catch you later. Give this a share. Thanks for popping onto the stream. Bye for now.